This is going to be the best video you've ever watched on how to achieve financial freedom. I've been sharing my own financial freedom journey on this channel ever since I blew out my right knee on national television in my final college basketball game. Since then, I've built $1 million rental portfolio, monetized my content, and grown a YouTube agency to $20K a month with plans on how to hit $100K a month. But that's nothing compared to the multi-millionaires making these same types of videos. And that's why you need to watch this one. I can help you reach financial freedom in a way that others can't. Forget for a moment about someone else's 30-year story about how they made $50 million. Instead, let's zoom in on the start to your financial freedom journey so that you have a step-by-step plan for the next 2 to 5 years and you know exactly what you need to do from day one. And I say this with love, but if you can't commit to watching this video from start to finish, even if you have to pause and come back to it another time, you're not going to reach financial freedom as quickly as you want, or maybe even ever. And the reason is that what's in this video might reveal to you that entrepreneurship and building something of your own just isn't for you. It may be too much work, but it also might just reveal that once you have the blueprint, the path to living the life of your dreams becomes crystal clear. But you won't know which of those things will happen if you don't finish this video. The first concept that you need to understand is from Robert Kiyosaki's book, The Cash Flow Quadrant. You may recognize his name from his even more popular book called Rich Dad, Poor Dad. And we're not going to go into depth about everything that he talks about, but this diagram right here is really important because it lays out pretty much the only 4 ways to make money. By the way, everything that I cover in this super long video is from my financial freedom blueprint. It's the most in-depth resource I've ever made. And if you want to follow along with the video and get your own version, just leave me a comment that says I need the blueprint on this video and I'll send you the link for it. You'll see that there's free templates and tools like the financial freedom pricing calculator that we're going to use in this video. And if you want to take it a step further and get on a one-on-one call with me so that we can work on your custom plan to financial freedom, there's an option for that too. But either way, comment I need the blueprint right now so that you have it and you don't forget to grab it once life gets in the way. Okay, now back to this cash flow quadrant. Starting in the top left, the E stands for employee. And Robert Kiyosaki defines this as you having a job. That is one way and oftentimes people's first way of making money. Then we're going to jump down to this quadrant here where the S stands for self-employed. And this is defined as you owning a job. It's still a job, you're still working, but instead of working for someone else, you own the job and you're working for yourself. From there, we're going to go back up to the top right of the quadrant, and this is being a business owner. And this is where you own a system. And finally, the last quadrant stands for investor, or what I'm going to write as asset owner. And this is where you own investments or you own assets. The idea in Kiyosaki's book is that you want to move from E to S to B to I as quickly as possible. Because with each quadrant that you move through, you're able to make more money and you're able to do it with more lifestyle and time and location freedom. But we're going to take these 4 quadrants and put them into a more helpful diagram so that you understand exactly what needs to happen to move you from one level to the next. So this is pretty much what you just saw. Quadrant 1 was the E quadrant where you are an employee. But now we're going to refer to the self-employed quadrant as level 1 of financial freedom. Being a business owner is level 2, and being an asset owner is level 3 of financial freedom. And at each of these levels, something different needs to happen. When you are an employee and you have a job and someone else is paying you, your entire focus needs to be on making sure that you are making cash flow positive income, meaning that you make more money each month than you spend. It is going to be pretty much impossible for you to move out of playing the employee game and start playing the entrepreneurship and financial freedom game if you are not cash flow positive. So that is number 1. Once you get to level 1 of financial freedom, you still want to be cash flow positive, but this time you want the income to be self-directed. Rather than someone else paying you, you're now an entrepreneur that's paying yourself. Level 2, still want to be cash flow positive, but now we want our income to be passive. This is the difference between being self-employed and actually having a business and people to help you run it. Most people, including myself, are kind of at level 1.5. It's where you do some of the stuff in your business, but not everything. You might have employees or virtual assistants to help you out with different parts of it. And if you are looking to hire a virtual assistant, I have a team that I've been using in the Philippines that has some extra capacity. So I'll leave a link in the description so you can figure out how to get connected with one of them to see if it might be a good fit for you. And level 3 is all about generational wealth. This is where you could literally die and your business would live on. It's just the truth. And this is why I am a true believer in the power of starting your own business if you have the goal of reaching generational wealth. There is nothing wrong with having a job, and entrepreneurship is not right for everyone. But if your goal is generational wealth, you have to find a way to own something rather than only having a job. Because the thing is, most jobs are going to pay you in cash. And no matter how much cash you make and then pass on to the next generation, you're going to run into two problems. First, cash in the future is always worth less than it is today. The value of it is always decreasing. Second, even if your future generations have cash and a lot of it, they still need to figure out how to make more. If they can't, that cash will eventually run out. This is why owning assets is so important, because they can be passed down and become even more valuable, whereas cash becomes less valuable. Paris Hilton, for example, was born with generational wealth because her family owns the Hilton hotel chain that was started back in 1919. That is a huge asset that is worth nearly $14 billion today. There's nothing that Paris Hilton has to do to ensure that Hilton hotels keep making money. That's generational wealth. And no job, no matter how much they love you or how much they pay you, is going to just give you assets that you can pass down to your future children and grandchildren and great-grandchildren. At some point, owning assets is how you reach level 3 of the game. And sure, there are some people who are employees and have a high enough salary that they may be able to save up enough, keep working their job, and skip the entrepreneurship path and just buy assets at some point down the road with all the money that they saved from their job. But you're probably not watching this video because you have a job that's going to pay you enough to buy millions of dollars worth of assets. For most of us, if we want to own an asset, or what one of my favorite books calls a money tree, we're going to have to plant that tree for ourselves and grow it into a business asset that we own. So when you're playing the employee game, remember that being cash flow positive is your number one goal. You have to know what your monthly burn rate is, meaning how much money do you spend every single month to live. You can use a free tracking app. How much do you pay for your rent or your mortgage, your car note, your gas, your groceries, your utilities, your streaming services, going out to eat, buying clothes? How much money do you burn each month? If you're not sure, use one of the free apps that will track it for you. And for the sake of the video, I looked it up, and the average American spends about $73,000 a year, which is just about $6,000 a month. So we'll imagine that that's the average person's burn rate. In order to get out of the employee game and get into the entrepreneurship game and start building that financial freedom, you have to make more money than that number that you spend. Once you do, you're playing the entrepreneurship game, and it's time to think about level 1 financial freedom, which is when your self-directed income exceeds your burn rate. And we can actually stop thinking about this as our burn rate and instead think about this as our financial freedom number. Remember, we said that based on the average American budget, we're aiming for a $6,000 per month financial freedom number. We're going to go in depth on how you actually create the self-directed income to reach that level, but let's talk about that number. It might not feel like financial freedom for you. $6,000 per month, that's what the average person is living on, not like some multimillionaire. But this is just step 1. The summer after I tore my ACL, I was coaching a basketball camp for middle schoolers and high schoolers, and one of the dads who was there helping out at the camp was a multimillionaire real estate investor. And I offered to buy him lunch for the opportunity to learn whatever he wanted to teach me. And one of the first things he told me is that when you are thinking about this financial freedom number, the number that you have to get to in order to fund your living expenses, the goal is to keep this number small at first, to keep your burn rate low. Because the lower your burn rate, the faster you achieve time and location freedom because you're working for yourself. And the faster you achieve that time and location freedom, the faster that you can then level up from $6,000 a month to $60,000 to $600,000 or whatever your goal number is going to be. So for example, if you're playing the employee game in a job, but you spend literally $5 per month to live, that's all it took to take care of your living expenses. It would be pretty easy for you to start a business that makes $5 a month. Then you would have replaced your day job and you'd have the freedom to do whatever else you want with your time. But the bigger that burn rate gets, the bigger your first financial freedom number will need to be. And then the more time you have to spend trying to reach that number, the more successful your business has to be to replace your job. And if that number is high enough, say it's $50,000 per month instead of $5, it will just be super hard and take a really long time to actually build a business that can replace that amount. So here's what he taught me to do. Keep that first number small, but also think about what you want your ideal life to look like. Think in 5 years, what are the lifestyle enhancements that you want to be able to afford? Some helpful questions to consider are, what do you want a random Tuesday to look like? A random Sunday? Where do you want to travel and how often? How do you want to stay and experience the trip when you get there? What type of food would you like to normally eat? What type of clothes do you want to wear? What type of car do you want to drive? What are things that relieve stress for you? Another great one to think about is things that you hate doing that you would love if someone else could do for you. Maybe it's laundry, cooking, cleaning. For me, the lifestyle enhancements on my list are to get a weekly massage, to be able to play pickleball whenever I want and travel to any tournament that I want to play in. And I want to have someone come clean my house once a week. That seems pretty dang ideal to me. And this is what Ramit Sethi from that book calls your rich life. I don't really care about the type of car that I drive. I almost never buy clothes, and I don't like fancy foods or restaurants. So my rich life is going to look different than what your rich life looks like. And so when you've got a list of those 5 to 10 lifestyle enhancers, you just need to figure out how much they're going to cost on a monthly basis. For some example numbers, maybe it's $100 a month for the pickleball gym. I want to set aside $300 a month for my tournament travel fund. A massage a week costs $400 a month. A cleaner is $400 a month. And because I want to have a stress-free life for myself and my family, I want to give my family $800 a month, and I also want to put $2,000 in savings for any future emergencies or big purchases. So while my first financial freedom number might be $6,000 because that's what replaces my day job, my second financial freedom number, the one that has the lifestyle enhancements included, is $10,000 per month. And you can continue to do that process over and over again as you choose to add more lifestyle enhancements. But in order to do this, you're going to focus on getting to that first financial freedom number so that you can free up your time and give yourself a certain level of freedom. And then you can decide what lifestyle enhancements to add, in what order, and how much more income you're going to need in order to add those things in. So, how do you make the money? For this, there are 3 lanes. There's the slow lane, there's the hard lane, and then there's the fast lane. Well, the slow lane is that you keep playing the employee game and you have a job and you try to negotiate a certain level of higher pay as well as time and location freedom so you can work remotely and you don't have a boss looking over your shoulder at all times. A really good book that talks about this is Tim Ferriss's 4-Hour Workweek because he gives options for how entrepreneurs can get time and location freedom as well as how employees can do the same. The idea in the slow lane is that some people will go the traditional route of investing every single month throughout their careers into a 401k or an index fund, and that will compound and grow over time. Some people will save up and buy rental properties. Some will even buy small local businesses like a car wash or a power washing company. But this is the slow lane and it takes more time and there is more risk than you might think. Shaq, one of my favorite basketball players, once did an interview where the reporter was so shocked about how much his NBA salary was, which it was true, it was a lot. But what Shaq responded with was, if you think that I make a lot of money, think about the guy that actually owns the team and writes my checks. The highest level of income comes from ownership and not being an employee. And the risk comes in because you might go into debt trying to get a degree to become a high-paid employee just to have to enter a competitive job market where you could be fired at any time, where the cost of living continues to go up, oftentimes even faster than your salary will. So again, there's nothing wrong with going in the slow lane and having a job. It's just that this path isn't as safe as it might have seemed when we were learning about it in school. There are risks associated with all of the lanes and all the paths you choose to take. And it's just life. On the opposite side of the slow lane, there's the hard lane. This is where you start a growth business, which is a business that has the goal of growing rapidly and gaining significant market share in its industry. When I was at Stanford studying business, I took a class called Online Entrepreneurship. And on day 1 of the semester, we started coming up with an idea for an app or an online business. And then for the final exam, we stood in front of the class and the professor and presented everything that we've learned and built and if we'd actually been able to make any money with the business. My idea was not very good and fizzled out like a day after the final exam, but we had all heard about 3 guys who were in the class a few years ahead of us, Evan, Reggie, and Bobby. They'd come up with an idea that was so good and had taken off so well that by the time the final exam rolled around, they refused to share it. They knew they had a multi-million-dollar app on their hands and they weren't going to risk someone stealing it before they could make it big. So they refused to present, they failed the class, and even further, they dropped out from Stanford altogether. The app they started? Snapchat. And today, worth over $15 billion. That is the hard lane to financial freedom. Building a growth company where you need to have both a top 0.5% idea and top 0.5% skills to make it happen, then you've got to convince investors to fund you with millions or even billions of dollars so that you can spend years and years being unprofitable in the hopes that one day you'll get acquired by a giant company like Meta, or you'll go public on the stock market and become a multimillionaire or even a billionaire. It can be done. It has been done, but it's hard. Very hard. And then there's the fast lane. And this is an idea from that book, Millionaire Fast Lane by MJ DeMarco. And it's the idea between having a job and being in the slow lane and taking the gamble of building a growth company in the hard lane. Instead, you want to build a company that funds just your lifestyle. And you want to do it relatively quickly. Think the next 2 to 5 years. If you could be living your ideal life with the time, location freedom, and self-directed income that's more than your financial freedom number. Wouldn't that be amazing? And while you've probably heard the phrase that money doesn't grow on trees, that's exactly what the fast lane analogy talks about and what you're going to create. There are 5 types of money trees, and all of the business ideas that you could start are going to fit into one of those 5 categories. So if you know how the money tree that your business fits into will grow, then you can do it much more quickly than if you're just throwing spaghetti at the walls and trying to figure out what works. There's the rental money tree, where you own something that people want access to, so you rent it out to them. There's the software money tree, where you create some type of software that people pay for access to use. There's the content money tree, where you create content that has various income streams attached to it. There's the distribution money tree, where you have a network that can move physical goods from one place to another. And 5th, there's the human resource money tree. And this is the money tree that is the least risky and the fastest to start. It's all about delivering services from one human to another. And you can absolutely grow more than one money tree. I have, but you do have to pick one to start with, and the human resource tree is likely where you're gonna want to begin. Reason being, because the money tree you choose is dependent on 3 things: the leverage you have, how passive it can be, and how scalable it can be. Imagine you're walking in your neighborhood and you come across this 500-pound rock with a short metal pole kind of jammed underneath it. And for some reason, you know that there's a pile of gold right underneath this 500-pound rock. If you were going to try to push down on that metal pole and it's that short, it's gonna be very difficult for you to move that rock. But if this pole was a little bit longer, then the effort you put down on this end of it will have more of an impact and likelihood to move that rock. That is leverage. And the more leverage you have, the less force you need to get the end result. So, what types of things are leverage? Well, having money gives you more leverage. Having more time on your hands than others. Having certain skills. And something we seem to forget about all the time is having access to other people's money, time, and skills. This is why the first 2 people I hired in my business were so impactful. They gave me more leverage because I was able to access their skills and their time. First, I hired a video editor to help me produce content, which saved me time, but also made my videos better because I was able to access her skills, which were far better than mine. Then I hired a virtual assistant who again saved me time and gave me access to her skills of organization and follow-up and all the things that were slipping through the cracks when I was responsible for them. Yes, it took me having money in order to make those hires, but again, this is why it's so important to be cash flow positive so that you can save up and invest in yourself in order to increase your leverage. I spent some money to increase my leverage, and then I was able to make more money because I have that leverage. So if there's a money tree that you have a lot of leverage in, you might consider choosing it. The second criteria is how passive could that money tree become for you one day? And third is how big could that money tree actually grow? Could it get you to level 3 generational wealth? For example, if you want to start a rental portfolio, you're going to have some leverage to get the property. While I was playing with the Harlem Globetrotters, I was traveling all over the world, and therefore I had the time to learn all about wholesaling and to make offers and try to get deals accomplished. And I was trying to leverage that work and that time to get the cash and knowledge so that I could actually go out and buy some rental properties. I also had savings from when I was in college. I had access to first-time home buyer benefits. I was willing to live in a duplex so that I could house hack, and I had parents who were able to co-sign for me on the loan. Those were all forms of leverage that I had in order to make pursuing the rental money tree a good option for me. Now, in terms of software, I know absolutely nothing about coding, and I don't have access to someone who could just code up an app for me at the drop of the hat, although my brother probably could if I asked him to. If you do, you might have the leverage to start that type of money tree. But for the human resource money tree, most people have the leverage of an existing skill or information that you know. And for that skill or information, there are people out there who would pay you to either learn it or have you do it for them. Maybe you know how to play the guitar, how to edit videos, you're a good math tutor or photographer, or you own a power washer and you're willing to clean driveways on the weekend, or you have a bunch of lawnmowers and you're going to get a crew out to go cut grass. Whatever it is, most people have some type of leverage that would allow them to provide a service to someone else. And that's why a human resource money tree is the easiest to start. It's also why they often check the box of being able to become passive. This YouTube channel, for example, is a content money tree. And while there is some passive income in terms of AdSense revenue or affiliates, it will never be passive in the sense that I don't have to do anything to keep those income streams flowing because it's my face, it's my channel. I can't just hire someone else to make the videos for me. That's less passive than something like, let's just use the example of a power washing business. That could be a human resource money tree, and you might have some personal leverage that allows you to get started. Even if you're going to do it as a one-person business right now, you're going to do all the power washing yourself. One day you could absolutely hire someone to do that for you and make that business passive. So in that sense, owning a power washing company has more potential for being passive than a content business. And if you are someone who's interested in real estate investing, but you don't have the leverage to buy a property for yourself right now, I look at wholesaling as a human resource money tree. You're providing the service of finding good deals to an investor, and then you get paid for it. But this is where the third criteria comes in of how much could this business scale. And this is why I personally don't do a ton of wholesaling anymore, because it would be very difficult to scale my one-person wholesaling business to something that would get me generational wealth. Because remember, that's all about owning an asset that will generate money without your involvement. That's a big difference between being an individual wholesaler and owning a wholesaling business. Don't get me wrong, there are multi-million-dollar wholesaling businesses out there, and there are YouTubers on this platform who own them and do an amazing job at it. But I personally realized that I didn't have the time, the interest, or the leverage to do the work to build $1 million wholesaling business. It's not where my passions are at, and I didn't want to do it, and that's okay. I used wholesaling as a way to get cash and get leverage to get a rental portfolio. And the income from those rental portfolios was more than my first financial freedom number. That gives me the time and location freedom to work on the rest of the money trees that I want to have in my orchard. So once you've chosen your money tree, how do you get it to the point that it covers your first financial freedom number? The first thing you have to do is validate your offer. You may have an idea for an amazing business that you just know has to work, but you need to find out who the ideal person for that service is, and you need to have a real life conversation with them. Let's use our power washing company example. Are we targeting homeowners or businesses? Businesses are always willing to pay more than individuals, so we'll go that route. But before you go spending money buying power washing supplies and setting up an LLC, you need to have actual conversation with those business owners and find out if they'd even be willing to pay for what you're offering. Even better, you need to get them to prepay, and that will really prove you have a great idea. The idea that build it and they will come is outdated, and it will be a waste of your time and money. So how do you do this? I've got some templates for how you can have these conversations with your ideal customer and the different questions that you can ask them, as well as how you can use their answers to create a winning offer so that you can then pre-sell it to them. So remember, just comment, "I need the blueprint," and I will send you the link for it. But let's imagine that we learn in our interviews that we're targeting commercial businesses that need to keep their buildings and driveways and dumpsters clean, and you find out that these businesses would like to have the service once a month. And remember, if you can, you want to pre-sell that service before you really commit to this being your money tree. You just want to know, is my ideal customer actually willing to pull money out of their pocket and give it to me? And in order for that to happen, you have to figure out what price you should be charging. For this, you don't have to do any math. I will explain it right here with simple math, but I'm also going to send you my free pricing calculator so you can just put the numbers in and have the math done for you. So remember, just comment, "I need the blueprint," and I will send you the link. Also, I came across a quote recently from Albert Einstein, one of the smartest people ever, where he said, "Whatever your shortcomings in math are, don't worry, mine are still greater. So even Albert Einstein felt that he wasn't very good at doing math, but he understood the underlying concepts, and that's what allowed him to do all the great things he did. So you just need to understand the underlying concepts. Don't worry about the actual math. That's why we all have phones. The first thing you need to know is how much is it going to cost you to deliver the service? And I mean every time you go out and you do it for one more customer. Don't worry about the cost of the power washer because you're going to be reusing that every time. You're not just buying a new one. But we need to know what's the cost of the things that each time you go out and do a power washing job, it's going to cost you. What are those costs? Let's say that the water is going to come from the facility, so you don't have to do anything there, but you do need the gas that goes into your power washer, which we'll assume is going to be $300. You'll also need to supply the chemicals and solutions to put into the water, so we're just calling that $100 per job. There's probably other stuff, but let's keep it simple. Most people would say that it costs me $400 per job to deliver the service. And let's just say we decide to charge $1,000. And so, okay, it looks like we make $600 per job. And if we want to know how many jobs it is going to take us in order to reach our level 1 financial freedom number, we just have to say that we're trying to get to $6,000 with a $600 job. When we divide that, it tells us we need 10 power washing jobs per month in order to reach level 1 financial freedom, self-directed income that covers our monthly financial freedom number. 10 clients kind of seems doable. But there are a few mistakes in this that we want to avoid. And trust me, I have made them and I've suffered for it, wondering why the number left in my bank account at the end of the month did not match up with how much I thought I was making and how hard I was working. So here's the mistake. We know that we have $400 of costs in terms of our cleaning solutions and our gas. But what people oftentimes forget is to count your own personal replacement costs. Remember, we want to build something that is not just a job that we own, but can become a business that we own. And that means we have to be able to step out of it and still have it work. So even if at the start you're going to be the person doing all of the power washing jobs, you need to know what it would cost to be able to hire yourself out of that. So let's imagine that it would cost you $25 an hour to pay somebody to do it for you, and it's going to take them 3 hours. And so you need to add a personal replacement cost of $75 per job. This is how you avoid starting a business that you can never step away from. For now, if you still do the work, great, you make an extra $75. But if you get sick, or you want to go to your kid's basketball game, or you want to go on vacation, you have it worked in that you can hire someone else to do this for you. But that means that instead of every job costing you just $400, it's going to cost you $525. Which means that from your $1,000 charge per job, you're not taking home $600, you're taking home $525, which still not too bad. But wait, there's more. When you are playing the employee game, the check that you get already has the taxes taken out of it. But when you are playing the entrepreneur game, you have to take taxes out yourself. So you can't count this entire $525 as pure profit. I recommend that for taxes, you set aside at least 25% of your profit. So for 25% of that $525 job, you'd want to set aside $131. And you also have to set aside what is called your cost to acquire a customer. And this is how much money do you have to spend to go out and get another customer. You have to be able to get more customers to keep your business flowing. Because not only do you want your business to grow, you are going to lose customers over time. So you have to be able to keep new ones coming in, and you have to have some type of marketing budget for that. Maybe you're going to run Facebook ads. Maybe you're going to go post flyers. Maybe you're going to pay someone to knock on businesses' doors and figure out if they want your service. But you have to have some money set aside in order to do this. And I recommend that you set aside 20%, which in this case, 20% of the $525 would be $105 per job. So all in all, you're setting aside an additional $236 per job that you can't count as your profit. So we're down from thinking we had $600 per sale to actually having $525 per sale. And now we have just $289 per job that we're actually able to take home. But wait, there's more. You still have your fixed costs. And these are the things that don't cost you money each time you get a new job, but that you still have to pay for each month, regardless of how many jobs that you have. You're gonna have things like software to run your business. So maybe your website and whatever software you're using to manage your different appointments. You might have some licenses that you have to operate in your state. You might have to have insurance. Maybe you took out a loan to buy the pressure washer, so you're gonna have to pay that back. Maybe you have someone you pay to answer the phone when new people call to inquire about your services. Let's imagine that all of your fixed costs add up to be $1,000 per month. Again, this is regardless of how many clients you have. This is the pricing calculator that my brother helped build in order to make these numbers easier for myself, and I wanted to share it with you guys. Again, comment below, I'll send it to you. So here's what we're looking at. First, in the instructions, only fill out the boxes that are yellow. If you try to edit any of the other boxes, it's gonna warn you not to because you're gonna break the calculator. So just the yellow ones. In step one, we're gonna enter the price of our product or service. Remember, we said that we were gonna charge $1,000 a month per client. And we were thinking that it was just gonna cost us $400 per job, but we remembered that we have to also enter our personal replacement cost of $75 per job. This is how we get to that $525 mark. That's called our gross margin. Then when we jump down to the next section, remember that we have a recommended tax savings rate of 25%. You can change this number and see how it would adjust things. But again, the recommendation is that you set aside 25% for taxes until you know something different from a tax professional, and 20% for your marketing costs. And then finally, we're gonna have our fixed cost, which in our example was $1,000 a month. Typically the fixed cost for an in-person, like brick and mortar business are gonna be much higher than an online business. I wanna use an example that's not just about content creation or just about starting an online business, because I know those things are very popular and they do work, but you can also start a business that is a local service in your area, that you actually go out and interact with people. There are so many different types of businesses that can work. So I would try to use examples from some in-person businesses as well as online-based businesses. And now we're down to the really important part of the calculator. This is where we see our net profit. This is how much profit we have for each sale after we've taken out both the cost to deliver the sale as well as the variable expenses that we need to set aside for taxes and marketing. But this is before we pay our monthly expenses. So down here, our last yellow box is our financial freedom number. How much money do we need this business to generate in order to fund our living expenses? In our example, that number is $6,000. And remember, before we did all of these extra calculations, we thought that we needed just 10 clients per month in order to make that $6,000. But what this actually shows us is that we really need 25 clients per month. That is a much different business and a much harder level to get to, which is super important we know ahead of time, because if we just went out and we're charging people $1,000 per month, we'd be setting ourselves up for a really hard time. And this is where the next column in the calculator becomes so important. You don't have to enter any numbers in here. Everything is just transferred over. But at the very top, it tells you what you should price your product at in order to reach the recommended 80% gross margin. Don't worry too much about exactly what gross margin is. I will link to this video right here, which goes more in depth explaining it. But this is a concept I learned from an Alex Hormozi video that my brother sent me when I was asking questions about why we weren't making enough money for all of the effort and clients that I thought we were getting. When you price your service correctly, it makes everything from here on out easier. So let's take a look. We still have a $400 cost to deliver our service. We still have a personal replacement cost of $75. And now we have $1,900 left over after paying that stuff for an 80% gross margin instead of just a 53% gross margin. We're still setting aside 25% for our taxes, so that is going to be higher because when you make more money, you pay more taxes. And we're going to still set aside 20% for our marketing costs. And here's the amazing thing. You might be thinking it's going to be so much harder to get someone to pay me $23.75 per month than it is to pay me $1,000 per month. And that's probably true. But not only will you need fewer clients, which we're going to come to in a moment, but also you are going to have much more money to spend to go get those clients. Instead of having just $105 to find 25 clients per month, you're going to have $380, more than 3 times more. That's going to help you find more clients, help you find better clients so that you can actually charge that amount. Our fixed costs are fixed, and so that's going to stay the same. And now we know that our net profit, instead of $289, is $1,045. And therefore, to reach our $6,000 financial freedom number, we only need 7 clients. And you should play around with this calculator for whatever money tree or business idea that you have. Let's imagine you want to be a social media marketer and you're going to create social media posts for your different clients. And you have a VA or a graphic designer or somebody who's going to help you, and you're going to pay them $500 a month. And to one day hire a lead designer who's going to do your job would cost you $1,000 per client. Well, you can start entering in some numbers, and let's say you're thinking that you're going to charge $4,000 per month. What this is showing is that you will have that kind of gross margin of $2,500, and that's only a 63% gross margin, which is lower than the 80% that Alex Hormozi recommends. But what does that do? You set aside your 25% for taxes, 20% for marketing costs. Let's just imagine that you still have that same $1,000 fixed expense. Now you're seeing that your net profit would be $1,375, and you'd need 6 clients to reach your $6,000 financial freedom number. But let's say at this point, you want this business to make $10,000 per month. Well, you'd need 8 clients. Let's say you wanted it to make $25,000 per month. You'd need 19 clients. You can play around with these numbers. And the beauty in seeing what your current gross margin looks like compared to your ideal gross margin is it will tell you what you should charge. To reach that 80% gross margin, you should charge $7,500 per month. You'll have a lot more money to go find those customers, and you'd only need 8 clients to reach your financial freedom number rather than 19. And this calculator is not law. You get to charge what you want. But this way, you'll at least know exactly how it'll affect you, so you know if you're making things easier on yourself or harder. Once you have enough interviews to validate your service, you know what to price it at. Now you're off to the races, and it's time to deliver that service and then start generating more leads so that you can get more people to grow the business. Inside the Financial Freedom Blueprint, there's a template of what I call the Knowledge Hub, which is where I keep all of the information about how to actually service my clients. And you can use that to make sure that your clients get the services they need, and that you can eventually hire people to come in and help you so you can move to level 2 financial freedom of being more passive. And then when you're thinking about how to get more customers, you can think of Alex Hormozi's core 4. The first 2 are ways to reach out to people one-on-one, and that would be warm outreach and cold outreach. Warm outreach is contacting people who are already in your network. It's getting referrals from your existing clients and calling them up to see if they also want services. It's when somebody shows interest, you put them into an automated email sequence, which again is included in the Financial Freedom Blueprint. These are all types of warm outreach. Cold outreach is a similar type of outreach, but it's the people who don't know who you are. And what I do for my YouTube agency is make a list of people that are in my target market. And I have 2 VAs on my team who are doing daily cold outreach in the DMs of various social media platforms, as well as a cold email campaign running. This is one of the best tasks that you can hire a VA for. And if you want me to connect you with someone who's already been trained on how to do this stuff, just use the link in the description. Then there are ways to reach people one-to-many. You could make free content. This YouTube video is a perfect example of a way to get more customers and generate leads in a one-to-many style. You could also run paid ads. Honestly, this isn't something that I do. I don't know a lot about it. I have tried it in the past and just didn't do a great job because I don't have the leverage, the existing skill set or time to learn that skill set to make paid ads work for myself. And I just don't feel like spending the money on it because I do other stuff. But if you have the leverage or you're interested in paid ads, there are plenty of people out there who can teach you how to run them. However you get your leads, it's important to remember that you're going to be sending them into a funnel. You are going to have far more leads come into the top of this funnel than are actually going to flow all the way down and actually become paying clients. That is just the way of the world. Everyone you contact, everyone who seems interested is not going to actually buy. And so your funnel is going to help you move people through that process and give you an idea of how many leads you need to bring in order to get the amount of customers that you want. At the top of your funnel is going to be your free offer. And this could be anything, but it needs to be something that your target audience cares about and is willing to say, yep, give me that free thing. Maybe it's going to be a free quote for your power washing business. For my YouTube agency, we offer free YouTube channel audits. We offer competitive reports on the person's niche on YouTube. There's a lot of different things you can offer someone for free to get them to say, yeah, I do actually want that thing, and to give you their contact information. From there, you can go straight to your core offer, or you can have something called your first offer. Oftentimes, this first offer is going to be less expensive than your main offer. And the reason being, once someone pays you a small amount, that's the best indication that if you do a good job in the future, they're going to be willing to pay you a bigger amount. For my YouTube agency, the first offer might be we'll edit one video for you and you can pay us this amount. And then my main offer is we'll run your entire YouTube channel and repurpose the content that we make onto other platforms as well. So you can see how people would drop off from accepting the free offer but saying no to the first offer, or even accepting the first offer to saying no to the core offer. But at the end of the day, the people who make it through the funnel are going to produce income for you. Here's a quick recap of the financial freedom blueprint. It starts off with you deciding to play a different game. Are you going to stay in the employee game, or are you going to bump up and start going through the levels of the entrepreneurship and financial freedom game? If so, you've got to know your numbers. What's your level 1 financial freedom? What's that first number you need to hit? And then what are the lifestyle enhancements that are going to continue to level up? Once you know that, you plant a money tree, one of the 5 different types of businesses, and then you've got to price it right. This is supposed to be a brain, but I'm not that good at drawing. Don't worry about being a big brain. You don't have to be good at math. Just use the calculator and go from there. Once you know your ideal client and how much you're charging, then you've just got to fill your funnel. You're going to have a lot of people come in at the top, and the ones that make it through, those are the ones that make you money. You made it through the longest video I have ever posted. So thank you. You are my favorite. And don't forget to comment, I need a blueprint, so I can get you these free resources from this video, as well as see how you can work with me one-on-one to customize your journey to financial freedom.